Welcome to a training session. I'm going to go over just a brief refresher training or for new hires coming into your departments. Just a general overview of the system and its functionality to get them up to speed instead of having them sit through a 4 to 6 hour class. We're just kind of going to go over, again, just a brief overview of the system and the philosophy behind it and kind of the flow that the system takes. So when you first log on to the system and you're provided with login credentials, this will be what we consider our home screen. When you first log in, you may need to set your home screen up. Typically that is the case. In the middle of the screen you'll have some text that'll tell you your home screen needs to be set up, and there will be a blue hyperlink that says click here. You can click on that link and it will take you into the options section automatically and into the manage front screen layout. In this section you would want to hit the restore defaults, then hit the save button, and then it's going to refresh the screen and take you back out to where you'll see your notifications, and then you're going to see all the other stuff on the right hand side. Real quickly, on your home screen, you've got some sections. The first section is broadcast messages. Broadcast messages is basically like a virtual grease board or a virtual bulletin board. This is where messages can go out to roles within your department, such as roles we consider officers. Another role would be supervisors. Another role would be admin staff. Another role would be clerical. Those types of job positions are called roles. So broadcast messages is a broadcast that goes out globally or to specific roles. The next section is notifications. Notifications is a one-on-one notification. A notification can be system generated from the system itself back to the officer, or the other one can be what they consider a informational. Informationals are from officers to officer or officers to multiple officers. A system-generated notification is going to be anything that has to do with reports that they're working on, subscriptions that we'll talk about a little bit briefly. For sheriff's offices that are handling court papers, you can assign court papers to officers. Any kind of cases they're assigned, there will be a notification when they're assigned to a case. They can click on the link for the description. It'll take them into that case. They can view the notification over here with this icon, or they can use what we call the finger, the hamburger helper finger. That typically is take action or select. You want to do something with that, is what that icon is there for. So notifications are basically, they are self-generated from an officer to an officer, or the system will generate that notification to the officer, telling them they have something in the application that they need to pay attention to. So that's kind of what notifications are. Your recent activities, this is kind of your file cabinet of what you have going on that's assigned to you. Currently in this particular officer in the training environment, he's got 29 initial reports. He's got 1 report that's pending approval. He's got 2 cases that are assigned to him. He's got 3 open field arrests, and he has 2 court papers that are assigned. Each one of these numbers are hyperlinks. So if you wanted to see your initial reports, you could click on the number 29, and it's going to open up all the reports that are showing to this officer in the initial status. You've got with the report number, the supplement number that goes along with that report, summary. Then you have some icons that you can use or manage. You have the transfer, if you need to transfer this report to another officer. Edit would allow you to go into the report, and then you have the delete button. The delete button, the initial report, depending upon your agency's permissions, the option for the officer to delete an initial report can be turned on or turned off. In this particular case, the officer has the ability to delete an incident report that is in its initial status. That report is logged as a deletion, and there is a delete report log that can be printed. That way, for accounting purposes, auditing, all report numbers are accounted for. So that's kind of how that recent activities works is it takes you into those particular categories. You can click on the number and it will take you in to view those reports in those particular categories. Quick links is basically what it is. They are quick links, quick access to the system. So instead of having to go through, click, 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 you can create certain links and be a one-stop shop for your searching capabilities or links to where you want to go in the application. And you can manage those by the Manage button that is showing over here. Okay. Depending upon your roles and permissions, some roles will have the ability for charts. That's typically in the supervisor, patrol supervisor and above. The ability for the charts. The charts just kind of show offenses that have occurred, what type of offenses they are, how many in a certain time frame. This kind of gives some statistical information for the supervisory folks on up. External links, these are managed by the agency administrator. They can provide websites that are needed for the department. So like Amber Alerts or Missouri statutes, you could click on that and it will take you out into a separate window and open up those applications from the application. It'll open websites in a different window. Excuse me, real quick, your recent activities, just kind of touch on this. A report has 4 statuses that a report lives in within our system. The first status is initial, then it would go to a pending status, then there's a disapproved status and an approved status. A couple things to pay attention to or take note is that a report is only editable or can be changed when it is in initial or pending. Initial or disapproved. A pending report or an approved report are locked from editing while they're in those statuses. So again, a report that is in initial status or in a disapproved status is able to be edited. A report that is in a pending approval or in an approved status is locked out of editing. Sometimes that can be a little confusing. Across the top, we have our buttons. These are designed to be accessed a couple different ways. You can hover, drop, and click whenever you find the section you want to go into. Or you can hard click on the tab, and then you can go in and click on the links to where you want to go in the application. So a couple different ways that you can navigate through. Within the Incidents tab, you're going to find our incident reporting. Within there, you'll find your new incidents, and then you'll find your new supplement reports. You also have the ability to view instant reports. Smart Search, where you can search on keywords. So if you're looking for a blue Ford F-150, you can actually go into the Smart Search, which we're not going to do too much today, but you can go into the Smart Search and you can search for blue, and you can pick where you want to search for the word blue at. You can search within our narratives, you can search within vehicles, you can search within people. You pick kind of where you want to search for the word blue. So it's a keyword search. We call it Smart Search, but that's kind of what the Smart Search allows you to do. Incident mapping we'll look at just briefly. It is mapping that we use Google services. We have Google Maps built into our application. So whenever you're putting in addresses and you geo-verify, geolocate those addresses, it puts a pin on the map. As long as you are doing that, you're dropping the pin, you're geo-verifying, getting long lat information stored, you will have a crime mapping of some sorts. It will break down the offenses into regions, areas. It'll give you statistics, how many crimes occurred, what types of crimes those are, percentages, what those percentage of crimes in your total scheme of things are. So it gives you some information on it in a visual perspective. So if you needed to take that to any kind of city council meetings or commissioner meetings or any kind of public venues to talk about crimes in your agency or your area, it kind of gives you that information so you can use it. But that's done through the incident mapping. Field contact. A field contact is basically replaces the field interview in your department, whether you're doing that on some sort of form or you're doing that just on a a little notebook and then you're doing a quick report or you're filing that away somewhere, a field contact will replace that in the system. So you can do for like knock and talk, suspicious people, suspicious vehicles, alarm calls. Some places are using the field contact to trap alarm calls. How many alarm calls are going to at certain residences. The field contact information is linked to our master indices. So any master indice information that is used in a field contact is being kept and stored in our historical information. So you can see numbers of and involvements, things of that nature using the field contacts information. The next one down is a field arrest. A field arrest was designed for some agencies in Michigan a few years back, basically to replace the paper form when you arrest somebody and transport them to jail. It collects all the information needed at the arrest and traps it in the system, again tying everything back to master names, and allows you to print that out, and if it's acceptable through your jail, then you can turn in that field arrest form, print it out, and hand off your prisoner. The field arrest actually links to our jail program. So if you are using our RMS program and our jail program, the field arrest is that link between the two, so that you can enter the information in one time, put in the field arrest information, take them to jail, the jail can pull that field arrest, and it starts the process in the jail for the jail staff. But again, that field arrest ties back to master name information, building historical data, which we'll look at when we pull up a person here in a second, and it creates that link for the jail software as well. Field contacts and field arrests, that information can be used to start the field arrest. So officers don't feel like they have to enter in information in both places or all three places. They can enter at one time, and then they can associate and use that information in other parts of the application. So again, the whole design is to not have to enter information in but one time, if at all possible. Use it when it's applicable and correct, and speed up the process for the officer in doing their reports, their field contacts, their field arrest, whatever they need to do within the application. Calls for service. Calls for service is our modified, very general, zero-level dispatching service for counties that aren't using a particular CAD system, or for monetary reasons don't have a functioning 911 CAD. We do have again a very ground zero level CAD calls for service, where you can track call information, put in notes, you can dispatch officers, plots it on the map, of course, because we are using Google services. You can create the incident for the officer from the call for service and push that out to the officer. It just doesn't have the 911 next generation functionality. We do sell a particular, we do have a CAD solution. If an agency is interested, feel free to contact or reach out to us. But this is the RMS product, and again, we do offer a CAD service within RMS for agencies that are smaller, not of high traffic. We do have several sites that are using the calls for service, managed calls, so it's there if it's something that's needed. Master indices we're going to talk about kind of the most here shortly. Everything revolves around the master indices. We want to not duplicate records as much as possible. So when you're using one of our master indices, a person, an address, a business or an organization, a vehicle, property, or gang, the system's going to, first screen you're going to see is a search screen. It wants you to search within the system to see if it already exists, because what the system does is it assigns each master indice a record ID, and that record ID follows it throughout the application. And that way we're building historical information at the master indice level, and you can view pretty much everything you want to view if you can find that person's master index ID. And everything has been associated to that one ID. So we'll take a look at that here in just 1 second. Options, again, we talked about that. That's your manage your front screen layout. Then you have some My Profile. This is the things that you can manage as a user to make sure that's correct within the application. So you can look at that, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that particular section. Records management, this is where citation information can be kept. This is just a housing for your citations. You're still going to write them on your handwritten pad. We do have a couple of interfaces for electronic citations. If anybody's using that, you please reach out and we can see if the interface is available. Officer Data Log. Officer Data Log is being used by several departments. This is basically an electronic way of keeping track of daily activities. You can keep up-to-minute times of when officers are busy versus when they are not busy. There's some setup involved with this, just getting some codes set up and statuses, getting vehicle information, what vehicles your department has. You can track mileage for vehicles that way, shift mileage, any kind of repairs on a shift-to-shift basis, those types of things. So Officer Data Log, if you're seeing this video and you're not for sure about the Officer Data Log, feel free to reach out and we can specifically talk about Officer Data Log in another session. Permits and warrants, this is where you would enter those items in. Some folks are using the permits section for CCW information, or if you have any kind of local permits that you need to keep track of. Warrants, this is where you would enter warrants into the system, your local warrants, if you want to keep track of those. If you're using 911 center, they're probably going to keep track of local warrants there, but if you're a local police department or municipal agency, you may keep your own local warrants. But we do have a warrant section within RMS. Civil process for the sheriff's offices. Civil process, if you're seeing this and you are not using our civil process and would like to have more information on it, much like data logs, feel free to reach out and we will schedule something specifically for civil process. The civil process has had a lot of revamp over the last year. So we are now trapping a lot more information, cover sheets. Again, we are being able to assign court papers, assigning caution codes to master persons records whenever a paper is present for that person. So doing a lot of neat and cool new things with civil process. So reach out if you want to learn more about civil process. Vehicle tow impound. This module is if you're going to tow a vehicle, you can capture that tow. You can do your inventory before tow, capture where you're going to put that impound at, and keep all that tied again back to master indice, back to the person, and back to the vehicle. You're keeping that information all the way back to your master indices. Forms and reports for agency admins and supervisors. This section does have a couple of reports that you may use. Custom forms is a separate training if you want to try to create some unique documents or unique forms for your agency. There's some extra training to go through to learn how to do that, but that's where you would do that, is in the Ad Search custom forms. Reports, we don't have a lot of canned reports in this system, and the reason being is whenever you start looking at, just for example, incidents reporting, view incident reports, you can create your own reports based off of the search fields. These are the standard search fields, and then you have additional search criteria. So anytime that you're in a search within our application, look for this additional search criteria. Because it's going to open up a few other options, and you can search on one of these boxes or you can search on multiples. So if you wanted to see all reports in initial status, you could just click on initial status, and you could click on you want to see all of them that from a particular date range. So let's just pick from the first of the year, and then you could hit search. And that's going to generate a report. There's nothing showing in here. Let me go back here real quick. the reports are going to be where you can, we do have wildcard search. So let's do wildcard search, and that'll bring us up some reports here. You can do a wildcard search, %sign, ampersand sign, asterisk sign, and it's basically just going to do an open-end search. It's going to pull up information that you're searching on. This is your results. Those results you can export out to a PDF, or you can export out to Excel. If you do it to Excel, then of course it puts it, and you can manipulate and manage the data through Excel. The PDF is just going to put it out and kind of make it pretty. You do have show map in some of the options. The show map, what the show map is going to do, and we refine this search a little bit to make it hopefully a little bit less returns, so our map doesn't get too cluttered. Let's see here. Let's see if I can get this to, there we go. Needed to put an end date on my report. So I did my report for open reports from the 1st through today that are in initial status. So it does my returns, brings me back 18 records found. I can export those out if I want to. I can show map. When I show map, it's going to pinpoint the addresses on the map that have been geo-verified or geolocated. And it's going to put those on the map if the offense is a trackable offense that the map associates and puts it on there. Not all offenses are going to show up on the map, and there's some configuration of what you want to see as far as offenses showing up on the map. This is a training database, so addresses kind of go all over the place, but you can kind of see how it will put the pinpoints on the map of where those crimes are occurring. Okay. Master persons, just going to go there. Your master indices, your persons, again, it's going to take you to a search screen. It's going to want you to search the application. So for example, if we wanted to search, you can put in the person's last name and just click the search button, and it's going to pull up all the returns that are found within the system. So I searched last name Clark, and it's going to pull up that we have one individual in the system. If I can do a new search, I can search, let's see, last name Brown. And when I search the last name Brown, I see that I've got some returns there. I've got Charles Brown in there, and I've got a Jason Brown. And you can see there's some differences here with the names. Charles Brown has a blue informational bubble. His bubble is showing his mugshot. With it being out beside his name, that information bubble is it's going to show mugshot. Informational bubble may show up in other parts. It has different information in it depending on where it shows up in what table. Out beside there we have the triangle with the exclamation point. This is kind of our alerts. Within there, when you hover over it, it kind of tells you that he's got an active caution, an active court paper, and a subscription. And if you go down to the next one, it's going to have the same thing. And if you go down to the next one, it kind of has the same thing. If you go down to Jason Brown, and then again we just have a mugshot for Jason Brown. The reason why these Charles Browns all have the same alert is because it is tied back to the same master index ID. He's got 3 entries in the system, but they all tie back to index ID 46. There is only one primary name for index 46. So whether the information was added as an alias or they collapsed records, if there was 2 entries made, you have the ability as an agency administrator to collapse your own records. When you collapse that record, it's going to keep the information that was entered in the wrong record, and you're going to collapse it down to the record that you want to keep. And it will tie them all back together to the one index ID. That way it's keeping the information that was entered underneath the wrong one. It's just bringing it in as an alias to the primary that you pick. And again, as you can see, Jason Brown, he has his own index ID of 111. To access it, you could click on the 46 or you can click on the last name. If you wanted to see what those alerts are, you can click on the alert itself. When you click on the alert, it's going to open up the caution codes that this person has associated with them. And it's going to open up the active court papers. And then you can click on the actual court paper, and it will take you to the court paper section and show you that information about that particular court paper. To get back to where you were, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can hit the Go Back button. Across the top here, we call these the breadcrumbs, and this is something that you have to turn on whenever you are in your preferences in your profile section. Is turning on the breadcrumb. The breadcrumb, as you click, you'll get more and more breadcrumbs. And if you want to go back, you can click the Go Back, or you can just click on a particular section in that breadcrumb, and it'll take you back to that part of the application. Back to Brown here. We're going to pick Charles Brown. Again, you can pick on his last name or you can pick on his index ID. When you pick on the index ID, it's going to pull up the person record. There's two different views. There is the view person, and then there's the edit person. When you are in the view person, you can only view the information. If you need to change, update information, you need to be in the edit mode. To get to the edit mode from this screen, you would hit Update Details. If you knew that you needed to edit from out here, you can click the Edit, and it'll take you directly into the Edit. Okay. So if you know you need to edit, go ahead and hit the Edit. If you're not for sure you need to edit, you can, while you're viewing, you see you have new information, you can update details, and then you can edit the information. The view person kind of gives you an overall view of his details. If you want to summarize it, you can by clicking the person's summary tab, and it's just going to consolidate the information down for you without the details as far as his pedigree information. And then you have the index summary. Index summary, I kind of call it the criminal wheel of fun. What it will do is it's going to put the person in the middle, and then it's going to break out the information into categories and let you kind of see that information in those regards. He's got 11 persons that he's associated with or been associated with. It kind of breaks those people out. And then you can see some stuff about those people, what their life looks like within our system. Same way with phone numbers, business numbers, addresses. We do keep all addresses that are entered into the system. Property that's associated with Mr. Brown, and then vehicles that's associated with Mr. Brown. Okay. So back to our person detail. Just going to kind of run through this. Information that's put in is put in, and with the date that it's put in, it is time date. You put in the date of information. So addresses, that's real important. When addresses change, because we know they like to move around. When you have new information and you put it in, put the date of info, and it will put the most current date up at the top. That way that you know what is current, but it does keep all the old information as well. So addresses and phone numbers, that's real important. Scars, marks, and tattoos. If they have a scar, mark, or a tattoo or something you want to notate, you can do that in the SMTs and other characteristics. You have a description, and then you have the ability to add an image. So if you have an image of that scar that's unique or that tattoo, whatever the case may be, if you want to take a picture of that, you can associate that to the record. Again, we tie all information in the master indices to each other. We associate. So he's had vehicles. He's had 2 vehicles that are put in the system that he's been associated with. So either by clicking on Charles Brown or by clicking on these vehicles, I'm going to be able to tie those 2 together. His mugshot that you entered into the system, it'll come over from the jail if you're using our jail system as well, or you can add it in yourself as a mugshot. Gang information can be kept as well. Gang is a master indice information. He's been associated to a Peanuts gang. So for example, if we wanted to go into this vehicle, this 2005 Chevrolet, we could click on the vehicle from here. It's going to take us into the vehicle information. So now we're in the master indice vehicles. This vehicle has its own master indice of 27. That's its own number. So now we're looking at its information within the system. We can see that that vehicle has been part of one incident report. It's been part of one citation. It's been impounded one time. And then we can see a description of the vehicle. We can see who's towed that vehicle through our tow module. We've associated that vehicle to that tow. Again, we can see people that have been tied to there. Here's our Charles Brown. If we needed to see a pic or some information, we see information about him. We see his mugshot. And then we see about reports. There's one report that's an approved report that's tied back to this vehicle. So again, you can kind of see the information that you can get from the master indice level. Again, if you want to go back, you can hit go back, or you can hit view person's details at the top in our breadcrumb. It's going to take us back to our screen here. On the far right, you can see that Charles Brown has 22 total incidents. He's been served 5 warrants, and you can read on down here. But each one of those are hyperlinks you can click on. You can tell by incidents what his role has been. He's been an arrestee 5 times. He's been the offender 12, been the victim of an incident 10 times. Addresses, common event associations, addresses, organizations, subscriptions, offenses, the offenses, what kind of category of offenses, it breaks that down for you, and also again about statuses of incidents. He's got 5 incident reports that are in the initial status, 15 that are approved, and 2 that are in disapproved status. If you needed to see those, again, those are quick links. Anytime you click on one of these quick links over here, it's going to take you to the summary tab. And then you can click up here and it'll take you to it within the report, within the screen, or you can just scroll down to the section you want to be in, and then you can click into the information. So again, master indice keeps a lot of information. The more you associate, the more information you put in the system, the more places it's going to show, and the more information that you have at your disposal. Again, data is the importance of this system. Much like any system, you can put information in there. We like to be able to manage that information differently. So again, we just let you to do that through reports and through our involvements and associating that information. Subscriptions we kind of talked about. Managing subscriptions, you can subscribe to the master indices persons, the address, the vehicle, and the gang in the organization. What the subscription allows you to do is to keep track of that information. Anytime that record is viewed, anytime that record is updated, or an association or a link is created, you can choose to get a notification or an email or both sent to you. So if you're watching a person or a house or a vehicle and another officer within your agency has contact or views their information, you can get notified of that. So for NARC teams or investigators, or if a probation officer is looking for somebody, you can put a subscription on them, and kind of if they have any contact with law enforcement, you can be notified when that contact is made or if law enforcement is viewing their records. So that's what subscriptions are. A subscription requires a reason. Anything that's an asterisk field, there has to be a comment put in. So you can kind of monitor why people are subscribing to people. There is the ability to add a silent subscription. A silent subscription would hide that from other officers so they wouldn't know that you have a subscription on somebody. Agency administrators automatically can see everything. So it's not hidden totally. It's viewable by the admin folks, but it's hiding it from every common officer is the best way to put that. So that's what subscriptions are. Again, they let you keep track of master indice information that is viewed, updated, or an association is made. Okay. Real quick, to finish up, I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible, just for, again, an overview. Incident reports. To create a new incident report, you would click the Create New Incident Report. It's going to take you into the first screen here. Depending upon your department, you'll either be auto-generating your numbers through the system, or you will manually put the number in. So if it's a manual, you wouldn't have this. You would actually click a button and type in the next report number. Security level is the level that you are at based upon your user level. It's going to show that there. Media crime summary can be made mandatory or not. This particular case, it is mandatory. This is basically just what the crime is, what has occurred. Dispatch to a burglary at 100 North Main. You know, it's a media crime summary. It is not the narrative. 1 or 2 lines at the most. You know, 2 or 3 paragraphs is way too much. Finished. Go to next section. Then it kicks us into our incident report. The incident report has tabs that go across to complete the report. At the top, you have some other buttons to use within the report. The system works in a wizard mode. The wizard mode is there to help you go from header to validations to submit for approval. The wizard will give you hints as to what needs to be fixed by putting bullets in these tabs that are red. Red are required fields to meet validations to submit your report. What is red will change depending upon the offense you picked. InterAct RMS is incident-based reporting software. So it is designed to meet NIBRS and UCR compliance reporting. So as long as you don't have red tabs within the application and your incident validates and you submit it, there's very little that your admin staff have to do whenever it comes time to do their UCR NIBR reporting. It should meet those criteria. That report should be fine, it should validate, and it should meet the NIBR UCR compliance issues. So again, it is incident-based reporting software, which may be different than what you're used to or what your software that you're using now does. This is something that's new over the last few years, and not all software is contingent upon incident-based reporting, but our software is. So it's one of the first things to understand. If you're not familiar with NIBRS and UCR and the differences, what each require, that may be something that your agency may want to train up on, or you might want to gain some extra knowledge, and it will help you in understanding offenses versus property and vehicles versus names, and linking and associating those together. Header tab is telling us that at least 1 reporting officer is required, and we need location. The wizard will help us through this. As long as it says at the top, it's saying exit wizard. It's telling you that if you want to get out of the wizard, to click the button. If that button says show wizard, that's telling you that you need to click it to turn the wizard on. Users will get in here and click buttons, and eventually if you click it 3 or 4 times and you get out of sequence, it's going to pop you out of the wizard. So if you find yourself lost or not able to get your report to validate, make sure that it is saying exit wizard and not show wizard. It's telling you what it wants you to do. Okay. So in this, we've got our media crime summary. It's incident types. This is not mandatory for this agency. It can be made mandatory, and basically this helps you when you're doing reports or your search. You can search or build a report based upon the incident type. We're just going to have habitation, burglary. Your times and dates, this will auto-create whenever you click Create Incident. If you need to change it, you can do that here. For agencies that are using our CAD or using our calls for service in RMS, when a call is created from calls for service or CAD, when it's pushed to the RMS, this information will come over if it's entered in those systems. You as the officer need to validate and make sure those times are correct, of course, and then you can hit the continue button. It's going to save the information and take you to the next screen. We are still in the header, and we are in the report location section. Pick your county of occurrence if you have multiples. If you don't, it's going to be default the county that you reside in. Then it's going to take you to add search address. We prefer that you use this one. We train that you use this one basically because it lets you search If it doesn't find it, then it lets you add it all in the same screen. Instead of having to search and then get out and add, it does it as a one-stop shop. Advanced search add. The first search is going to be a quick search, so it's going to search your local database. So I'm going to put one in here that's hopefully not in the system. .423 PAL, and it is not showing in the system. It says, do you want to add this address? It's not showing up. I want to add the address. The next search it's going to take me to is a geo search. So it didn't find me in the quick search, which is local, so it's going to go out and it's going to search Google Maps. So I want to put in some more information into this system. Whenever you do that, it's good to put in the address plus the city and the state. That way that you're not searching all over the United States, you're just searching in the area that you want to be searching in. Hit geo search, and it's going to go and it's going to plot that on the map. It's going to find a pin. If that address is exact, it's going to say exact match found. Again, I just was guessing at an address, and it says no exact match, but it puts it close. And I know where Powell Street is, and I know it's behind Lambert's Cafe, and that looks pretty close, so I'm going to say use this location. If I needed to move that pin, I can move that pin by tapping it one time, and then I can click where I want to put it, and then it's going to move it there. Okay. So if that was exactly where I wanted to be, that's not 421 Powell, that is actually 318 Ross Avenue. And what it's done is it's found that long lat, it's plotted it on the map, it's now made that as 318 Ross Avenue, Minor, Missouri, which is fine. Okay, if I want to say, yeah, that's where I was, I can now save and select that address, and it's going to put that as 318, plot it on the map, and it's going to select it and put it into my report. Reporting areas, if you have those, you can set those up. NIBR city again, we will set that up for your agency, your NIBR reporting cities. If you're a single agency, a PD, then it's probably just going to be the city that you're in. If it's a county, you may have one or two different NIBR reporting cities for your county, depending upon the size. Rest of information will autofill your location, your county that you of occurrence. You hit the continue button, go to next screen. This is the officer section. Again, one reporting officer is required. It automatically puts the reporting officer as the one that's logged in into the report. If you need to add other officers, you can by hitting add officer. If you need to add any kind of civilian employee for any purpose, you can do that through add employee. Real quick, we'll talk about supplements. As you can see, it's saying reporting officer for supplement number 0. This is our original report because we did initial or incidents reporting, create new report. There's our report number, 15-000260, supplement number 0. Every report, the original supplement is the supplement O or 0. Any additional or supplements are supplement reports, so they have the same report number, they just have a sequential supplement number. So the next one would be supplement would be number 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on how many is needed. So every supplement needs to have a reporting officer. So if we created a new supplement to this report, supplement 1 would show up here, and it would have its own reporting officer. Something to keep in mind. That is mainly used for the approval process, keeping the reports in order. When you do approvals for supervisors, you have to approve the original or the 0 report before you can approve 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5. The other trick is that supplements can be done at this point in time. So if another officer needed to do a supplement to this report, all I have to do is create the report and finish the header tab, and then any other officer can come in and do their supplements. And the reason that being is every report, every supplement has to have a header and a narrative. And once the header is done on the original, it carries over to each of the supplements. So supplement 1, when I create a supplement to this report, the only red tab is going to be the narrative tab. Everything else I can add information into it, but it's only going to require me to put a narrative in. Okay. We got our header in. We can finish, go to the next section. This is another clue that you're working in the wizard, is that you'll have this go to next section or finished. If you're not in the wizard, it's going to say save. Finish, go to next section. Offense categories, offense section. Some agencies want every call to have a report, whether there's a criminal offense or not. If that's the case, you can hit the skip criminal offense section and then continue adding names and hitting your narrative and hitting submit for approval. Okay. If not, you can go here to your offense code. You can search on charge code number, or you can search on the description. We have a burglary, so I can just start typing burglary, and it's going to pull up the burglary statutes. Okay. I'm just going to pick one. When I pick it, it puts the information out here, and then I can hit there's the state charge code, statute, and description. Hit continue. When I hit continue, it's going to take me into the offense details. This may be a little different than what you're used to. This is going to ask some of those questions that are pertinent and pertain to your UCR NIVER information. What's the status of this offense? It's an open offense or pending. What's the charge? Then I have some asterisk fields. Was this attempted or completed? It was completed. Was there any cargo theft? No. Any bias information? None or unknown, or if you have some. What kind of premises was it? Residence. Any force used? Yes. Was there any alcohol, computers, or drugs? Not applicable. Then I can hit continue. And when I put my pick my offense and I put in my offense details, now it's going to make my names tab red, and it's going to make the property and vehicle section red along with my narrative. Okay. Finish, go to next section. It's going to take me to the name section. And again, if I hover, it's going to pull up the bullets. I need a victim, I need an offender, and I need a relationship between the victim and the offender. Okay. The offender information, if it's known, I can put in add offender. If it's not known, we have add unknown offender. And you can pick, if you know there's 2 people, you can put 2, and then you can put in some characteristics if you know it. If you don't know any types, if there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever the case may be, you can just put unknown, and it just puts a placeholder in the report. It's basically putting in placeholders if you know how many or if you don't know how many. We're going to say we know who the offender is, so we're going to hit add offender, and we're going to pick Brown, Charles, put in, there's our peep. I've got index 46, so we got 1 record, and is this the same? Yep, that's the guy that I know. Pick the primary by hitting the select. It's going to pull him into your report. It's going to ask you some questions here. Does he live in the city where it occurred, in a county but not city, state but not city? So it asks you some residency questions. What's his role? Suspect offender. Was there any forces used to subdue him? No. In Missouri, we don't have a use of force form being used currently. If someone wants to create that, they can. Then we can use it at other sites. But nobody's created that custom form that I'm aware of. MO information for the offender. You can add MO for the offender if it's known, or if there's some that has been identified and you want to put it in, you can do that by clicking that link there. If not, continue. And now it's dropped your offender into that section. You can add more offenders or unknowns if you need to. If you need to change something, you can hit the edit button to change it. If you need to delete it, you can delete it at this point in time because we are an initial report. Victim information. A victim can be a person or a business or organization. If it is a society crime, it automatically will associate society as the victim, and you won't need to do that. Society is the state of Missouri, whatever you're used to seeing, but that's what any society crimes, the victim automatically is put in as society. That's just a hard code by the charge. Search person, who's our victim, we'll make this particular person our victim. We're going to select them. What is the residency status of that victim? What is that person's role? That person is a victim. There is a victim police officer for any kind of crime that involves a police officer. That will, of course, tie to your LEOCA reporting. This next section here is kind of important. Offenses in red require at least one victim. Anything in red, just take note that you've usually got to do something with it, especially if it's an asterisk. So what it's wanting you to do is, he's a victim of what crime? So this is the crime that's being put in the report, and he is the victim, so you got to link them together. So you can move over, highlight it, move it over into this selected box. You can double click it or highlight it and hit the arrow over. Okay. Then it asks you, what is the relationship between Stanley and Charles Brown? And you've got a drop down. You can pick from the list. If you don't know, you can put in unknown. Victim's rights notification. If that information is given, this lets you just log how you gave it, what's the method, in person, and comment if you want to put in, and hit continue. Your name section is now complete. If you had any witnesses or bystanders, or if EMS was called and you want to put them on the report, you can do that in the incident name section. Next tab, finish, go to next section, is property vehicles. We have a burglary, so we got to associate some property. When we understand that in burglary sometimes no property is taken, it can just be kicked the door, got 1 foot in and got spooked and they took off. So, you know, no property was taken. We do have the understanding they go in, they ransack the place, the owners can't pinpoint what's gone, but the place has just been destroyed. So unknown property taken at this time, or it's not been identified. Those are basically placeholders that meet the validations that are NIBRS and UCR requirements that are set for that particular offense. So these let you meet the validations. So you can click that if you don't know what's been taken, or if no property, they just kicked the door and stepped inside, but they didn't take anything. We're going to do property was taken, so you hit add property. You have add property or you have add vehicle. If it is a vehicle, you're going to use vehicle information, click vehicle. Property, there are 5 buttons in the property. If it's a gun, it needs to go in the gun section. If it's currency, as in large denominations, a large amount, if an ATM robbery, a bank robbery, a huge drug buy or drug deal, and you've got denominations that you need to count and allocate out, use the currency. If it's just $13.33, use the property. You have documents, mainly for like credit card fraud or identity theft, anything that's document orientated, you put that in the documents section. Drugs, pretty much self-explanatory. If it doesn't fit in those 4 categories, then it goes into property. We're going to do property, we're just going to do television. Start typing, it'll autofill, and then you just put in the information that you got, description, colors, if you want to put that in. The value, if it's known, put it in, because depending on the crime and our next screen, it's going to be required. So I got some information in my property, hit save. It saved my information. It gave it a property index ID of 218, so now it's a master indice record. It's going to say again in red, offenses in red require at least 1 property. I've got to associate 1 piece of property for that crime. So that's why that no property is there or not been identified, is because the NIBR UCR requirement is 1 piece of property is required. So again, I can move it over by highlighting and selecting or by double-clicking. It moves it over. When I moved it over, I have some questions that popped up. The original status, it is stolen. Its current status, it is stolen. Okay. The property owner who owned this piece of property, Mr. Clark was the victim. And then here, asterisk is valued at 500. It carried it over because I put it up here. If I left it 0 here, then I would have to put the 500 here. So you got to put it in one of the two places. Was this piece of property confiscated and placed into evidence? Yes or no. It's still showing as stolen, so it would be a no. If you needed more property added, you could hit save and add it to the piece of property. If you didn't, you could hit save and continue. So we're going to do save and add another because I want to do a piece of property on the demonstration here real quick. We're going to do property again, and we're going to put in, let's see, I think it's pry bar. I have to see what's termed in here. Pry bar. And you can put in the information you want. I'm just going to do this to be quick. Pry bar gives it an index ID. It doesn't require you to associate it because there's already been one piece of property associated. The current status, what is the status of this? It was used in the crime. Property owner, we don't know. Well, we're charging Mr. Brown, so we'll go ahead and put it as his. Then it says evidence, yes or no. Yes, this one is going to be evidence. So I'm clicking it. It's going to say, hey, you're taking this piece of property and you're going to create evidence. Yes. It's going to put it in a pending check-in status. Date it was recovered. Time. Location. What's your pending check-in locations? This is something we gathered from you in Discovery. And then you can put in some comments if you needed to. We have chain of custody. If you need to add chain of custody, if you need to put some processing notes, you can hit the plus sign, put in processing notes. Electronic signature is available. You can hit the signature. You can use your mouse and sign something. You can get pads if you want to, however you want to do it. Hit submit. Captures your signature, and you can hit save. We've now added that piece of property as evidence. It puts that information here for us. If we're done with our property, we can hit save and continue. At this point in time, our property tab is no longer red. If you wanted to print out evidence labels, you can print out evidence labels. Pick the piece of evidence, print it out as a PDF. You can run the report, open it up, and then there's an evidence label for you. We're done with our property. Finished. Go to the next section. This is our narrative section. You can set up templates if you want to within your application, and basically it's just going to drop the information into, and then the officer can fill in the information in the format that's wanted by the agency. The other thing we have is quick reference. The quick reference will open up a screen at the top, and it'll give you people information. So if you need to reference back to that, you can look up here and see that information, so you're typing. Property information or vehicles, same way. If you're dealing with VIN numbers, serial numbers, you can get that information up here at the top. If you want to, whenever you're talking about initial contact up here, if you wanted to use Charles Brown, you can just click on it, and it's going to drop it into the report, and then you can go in and clean stuff up however you need to. Okay, so that's what the quick reference does. It gives you the information to view, or you can click on it and use it in your report. If you want to see some more information about Charles Brown, there is an informational bubble. Informational bubble, and that will give you his details from his index ID. Okay. As long as you have something entered in your report, your narrative, it will meet the criteria. We auto-save our reports every minute, so you don't have to worry about losing the whole report. You may only lose a minute at a time if you lose connectivity, since this is internet-based web services. It is dependent upon, of course, internet connection. but it will save automatically every minute. Save and continue. Your report section is now blue, no longer red. You can finish, go to the next section. Attachments. You can add attachments. You cannot add audio or video files at this point in time for size reasons and for uploads, this being web services. We just take documents right now and images as far as pictures. This is where you would add those. And at this point in time, validations are run validations. This report is valid. There is no red. So at this point in time, you can submit the report for approval. It's going to send it to your approving group, and you can put in notes if you so choose. Hit submit. Okay. Takes you back to your home screen, and now if you go to pending approval, you can click on there, and you'll see the report we just did is now in a pending approval status. I do not have an edit or a delete now because it's in pending approval. I cannot change this report, and I cannot delete it. It's in pending uneditable status. If I needed to add more information, I can do that a couple of ways. My supervisor can disapprove that report, and then it will come back to me, and I'll have the edit icon. The other option that most places are using is create a new supplement. So if you need to add information and you don't want to go through the disapprove process, or it doesn't get kicked back to you, you can basically create a new supplement. And we're going to do that just to get the how we do a supplements. Create supplement. You can create it this way, or you can go up here and create supplement. You can go up here, you can create supplement. You can put in the supplement report number. I'm sorry, you can put in the report number that you need to do a supplement for, search and find it, and then do it that way. We're just going to do it the short way real quick. This is the report that I want to do a supplement to. When I create the new supplement, it's going to give me a warning. You're about to generate a new incident report supplement number. Would you like to continue? Not a new report number, it's a new report supplement number. So this is the report. I'm going to create a new supplement number for it. Same report number. It's creating supplement 1. It automatically takes me to the officers section to show me that I'm going to be the reporting officer for supplement number 1. I can make changes to this report, to this supplement, because this is the one I'm working on and it is not locked. Supplement number 0 is locked. Okay. So I scroll back to the top. This looks like this looks like my other screen when I did my original, except I do not have a wizard, and it's telling me that I'm in supplement number 1, and the only thing that's red is the narrative. My header section's already filled out. All the other sections are filled out because it was done in my original report. Supplements, again, the only thing that's required in a supplement is header and narrative, and the header is already filled out. So all I got to do is add in narrative, and if I change any information or add any information, I would do that in the respective tab. I can view the original narrative. I can't change it. Even though I wrote it, I can't change it. I can add my new narrative. I can either hit the disk to save, or at the bottom it says save, save the information, and then again I submit. And off it goes. Okay. So now I have 3 reports in my pending approval. All right. Real quick, that's just kind of how you do an incident report, how you can get started with the system. I'm going to end the training session for now just for time reasons. So again, if you have any further questions or need some specific training in regards to some of the other tabs, officer daily logs or civil process, I will try to set up some more of those or reach out to Missouri Sheriff's Association and they can work on some training for your agency. Other than that, I appreciate your time and have a good day.